You want to know how badly we messed up? Fine, I will tell you. But do not expect me to sugarcoat it, because there is no amount of sugar in this galaxy that could make this story taste any better. My name is Vornik. I am, or rather I was, a strategic combat analyst for the Galactic Coalition. Notice how I said was? Yeah, that should give you some idea of how this tale ends. But let me start at the beginning, back when we were all so very, very stupid. The humans had just made contact. Third cycle of their space exploration, if I remember correctly. Cute little things, really. Bipedal carbon-based, ridiculously fragile-looking, they showed up at the Coalition summit on Meridian Station with their primitive fusion drives and their hilariously outdated energy weapons. I remember standing in the observation deck with my colleagues, watching their delegation shuffle off their cramped little vessel. Look at them, Irax had said, his mandibles clicking with barely suppressed laughter. They still use projectile weapons. Actual metal slugs. Can you believe it? I had laughed too. We all did. The Kravik delegation was practically howling. The Centauri were doing that thing where their bioluminescent patches flickered in patterns that translated to mockery. Even the usually stoic Valen were making their equivalent of snickering sounds, these deep thrumming vibrations that made the floor shake. The human delegation leader, a female named Captain Jessica Morton, did not seem bothered by our amusement. She just stood there, hands clasped behind her back, waiting for us to finish. That should have been my first warning sign. That calm, that patient, that complete and utter lack of concern about being the joke of the room. Welcome to the Coalition, High Chancellor Vrix had said. Once we had all composed ourselves, I trust your trip was adequate. It was fine, thank you, Morton had replied. Her voice was steady, neutral. We are honored to be considered for membership. Considered is certainly the word, Rix had said, and I swear there was a hint of condescension in his tone. You understand, of course, that there are standards, requirements. Your species is quite, how should I put this? Young. We understand completely, Morton had said. Which is why we have come prepared to demonstrate our capabilities. That had gotten a fresh round of chuckles. Capabilities. These soft-skinned apes with their chemical rockets and their adorable little guns were going to demonstrate capabilities to civilizations that had been navigating the stars for millennia. Very well, Rix had said, clearly humoring them. We have scheduled a series of trials, combat simulations, primarily to assess your tactical aptitude and technological level. Standard procedure for all applicant species. When do we start? Morton had asked. Tomorrow, if you are ready, Brikas had said. We are ready now, Morton had replied. Oh, how we had laughed at that. The audacity, the eagerness, like children wanting to show off a drawing to adults. Talix had leaned over to me, his voice low. I give them 30 seconds in the simulation, maybe 40 if they are lucky. You are being generous, I had whispered back. 20 seconds, maximum. These primitives do not stand a chance. How wrong we were. How catastrophically, monumentally, universe-shatteringly wrong. The combat simulation arena was a marvel of technology, a perfect recreation of space warfare conditions, using hard light projections and neural feedback to create an absolutely realistic experience. The challengers would pilot virtual ships against our standard defense fleet, a moderate-level challenge that most applicant species struggled with. We had never had anyone actually win. The point was not to win. The point was to show that you could survive long enough to maybe, possibly, learn something useful. The humans sent in a pilot named Marcus Webb. Young guy, early 30s by their years. Lean, with these sharp eyes that seemed to track everything in the room at once. He climbed into the neural interface pod without hesitation. No fear, no nervousness. Just focus. Standard simulation, he had asked. Standard. The simulation master, a Vel named Korthus, had confirmed. You will face 12 hostile vessels. Your objective is to survive for 10 minutes. Good luck. Can I ask a question? Webb had said. Of course, Korthas had replied, sounding almost kind. Poor fool thought the human was scared. What is the record time for this simulation? That had gotten everyone's attention. Korthas had blinked his 3 eyes in sequence, confused. The record? Well, no one has ever completed it. The best survival time is 7 minutes, 42 seconds, achieved by a Kravik ace pilot. Got it, Webb had said. just wanted to know what I was shooting for. And then the simulation began. I watched from the observation gallery with about 50 other coalition members. We were all expecting a quick show, maybe a few decent evasive maneuvers before the inevitable. What we got instead was something that would haunt my dreams for cycles to come. Webb's virtual ship burst into motion the instant the simulation started, not cautiously, not defensively, aggressively. He accelerated straight toward the enemy formation at speeds that made several spectators gasp. Suicidal, we all thought. The human was panicking, going out in a blaze of glory. Except he was not panicking. He cut through the center of the enemy formation, weapons blazing, and took out 2 ships in the first pass. Just gone. Deleted. Before they could even react. Lucky shots, someone muttered, but then Webb pulled a maneuver that should not have been possible. He flipped his ship end over end at full acceleration, something that would have turned any organic pilot into paste from the G-forces, and opened fire on 3 more ships that had been trying to flank him. He was moving backwards now, still at maximum speed, firing forward at targets he should not have been able to track. 3 more ships gone. The gallery went quiet. How is he doing this? The rocks had whispered. The neural feedback alone should have knocked him unconscious by now. Webb kept moving, kept firing, kept doing things that violated every principle of safe space combat we had established over thousands of years. He skimmed so close to one enemy ship that their shields interfaced, and he used the magnetic resonance to slingshot himself into a vector that put him behind 4 ships at once. 4 perfect shots. 4 more kills. 9 ships down. 11 remained. Time elapsed. 3 minutes. This is not possible, Korthas had said, staring at his readouts. The stress levels should be killing him. The neural interface is reporting feedback that would cause brain hemorrhaging in any species we know. But Webb just kept going. He was not dodging fire so much as he was predicting where fire would be and simply not being there. It was like watching someone who could see the future. Every move was precise, calculated, and absolutely merciless. The remaining ships tried to scatter. Smart move usually. Make yourself harder to target. Regroup, coordinate. But Webb did something that made my blood run cold. He turned off his shields. Just turned them off. Completely diverted all that power to engines and weapons. He just committed suicide. Someone said. But the thing was, Webb did not get hit. Not once. He moved through the enemy fire like water, like smoke, like something that existed in dimensions we could not perceive. And without shields draining his power, his weapons hit harder, his engines pushed faster. The last 3 ships died in quick succession. Boom, boom, boom. Like he was swatting insects. Total time, 5 minutes, 16 seconds. And then Webb just sat there in his virtual cockpit waiting. The simulation was supposed to last 10 minutes. He had 3 enemy fleets worth of time left and nothing to shoot at. So he just waited. Calm, patient. Like he was sitting in a park somewhere. When the simulation finally timed out, the gallery was silent. Completely, utterly silent. Webb climbed out of the pod, stretched like he had just woken up from a nap, and looked around at all of us. How did I do? He asked. Korthas could not speak. He just pointed at the scoreboard. Perfect score. 0 damage taken. Every enemy destroyed. New record by a margin that was frankly obscene. Cool, Webb had said. Same time tomorrow? That was day 1. By day 3, word had spread throughout the entire coalition. The humans, those primitive jokes with their chemical rockets and projectile weapons, had absolutely demolished every combat simulation we threw at them. Not just one. Demolished. Made them look easy. Made us look stupid. The council called an emergency session. This is clearly a fluke, Councillor Drax had insisted. He was Kravik, very proud of his species' reputation as the coalition's finest warriors. One pilot having one good day means nothing. We need more data. We have more data. Vepix had said quietly. We sent 12 more pilots through the simulations. Different scenarios, different parameters, different difficulty levels. The results were consistent. He pulled up the holographic display. Every human pilot had scored in the top percentile. Most had set new records. One pilot, a woman named Emily Vasquez, had completed a simulation that we had literally labeled impossible. It was not supposed to be beaten. It was supposed to teach humility and tactical thinking in no-win scenarios. She won, decisively. and then asked if we had anything harder. There must be something wrong with the simulations. Drax had insisted, some glitch, some error in the coding that the humans are exploiting. We checked, Rix had said, triple checked, quadruple checked. The simulations are functioning perfectly. The humans are just better than us. That statement hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Better than us. Better than civilizations that had been waging war among the stars since before humans discovered agriculture. Better than the Kravik war masters, the Centauri tactical geniuses, the Veln strategic commanders. Better. I refuse to accept this, Drax had growled. I want live trials, real combat. Let us see how they perform when actual lives are on the line, when pain is real, when death is permanent. That is a terrible idea, I had said. Everyone looked at me. I was just an analyst, not a counselor, but I had been watching these humans carefully. We do not understand what we are dealing with here. These humans are operating on principles we do not comprehend. Until we figure out why they are so effective, we should not escalate. Ornick makes a valid point, Brooks had said. But Drax was not listening. Pride. That was always the problem. Pride and ego and the absolute refusal to believe that these newcomers could possibly be superior. Lab trials, Drax had repeated, in 3 days, full combat exercises against our active duty crews. If the humans are truly as capable as these simulations suggest, they will have no problem with real opponents. Reflex had hesitated, but the other counselors were nodding. They wanted proof. They wanted to see these humans fail under real pressure, real stakes, real consequences. Very well, Verix had said. But we use training weapons and safety protocols. No one actually dies. Agreed, Drax had said, smiling with all his teeth. This will be educational for everyone involved. Educational. Right. I went to find Captain Morton after the session. She was in the human quarters reviewing data on a primitive holographic tablet. When I entered, she looked up, smiled politely. Analyst Vornik, she said. What can I do for you? The Council has authorized live combat trials, I had said, against active duty coalition forces. In 3 days, she had nodded slowly.
I see.
And you are here to warn us, to suggest we decline. Yes, I had said. Look, I do not know how you are doing what you are doing in those simulations. I do not understand it. But real combat is different. Real pain, real fear, real consequences. Even with safety protocols, people get hurt. Sometimes badly. And the Council, particularly Counselor Drax, they are looking for you to fail. They want you to fail. They need you to fail. Morton had set down her tablet. Why are you telling us this? Because I have spent my career analyzing combat data, I had said, and what I saw in those simulations terrifies me. Not because you won, because of how easily you won. Like you were not even trying, like you were holding back. She had smiled at that. A strange smile, almost sad. We were holding back, she had said quietly. I felt something cold slide down my spine. What? The simulations, Morton had said. Your safety protocols, your neural feedback limiters, your G-force restrictions, they are very conservative. So we matched our performance to what we thought you would find acceptable. We did not want to seem too abnormal. My mouth went dry. What are you saying? I am saying, Morton had said, standing up and walking to the viewport, staring out at the stars, that what you saw was us operating under your safety limits. Us being careful. Us being gentle. And if you were not being gentle, I had heard myself ask. She had turned to look at me then, and her eyes were utterly calm, utterly certain. Then you would understand why humanity spent 10,000 years fighting each other before we figured out how to reach the stars, she had said. You would understand why every nation on our planet has enough weapons to sterilize our biosphere multiple times over. You would understand why our children play games simulating war, why our entertainment glorifies combat, why our entire civilization is built on a foundation of controlled violence. You are saying you are a warrior race, I had said, like the Kravik. No, Morton had said. The Kravik are soldiers, disciplined, trained, effective. We are something else. We are survivors. We are persistence predators. We are the species that looked at every other apex predator on our planet and said, you know what, I bet I can kill that. And then we did. We turned our entire biosphere into our playground and every other species into either livestock or decorations. She had walked closer to me, and I had felt an instinctive urge to back away. Your safety limits keep pilots alive, she had continued. Our safety limits keep everyone else alive. They keep us from doing the things we are actually capable of, the things we evolved to do, the things that scare us about ourselves. This is insane, I had whispered. Probably, Morton had agreed, but you asked for live trials, you wanted to see what we can really do, so I am going to ask you a question, Analyst Vornik, and I need you to answer honestly. What question? Do you actually want us to win these trials, or do you want us to lose just enough to make you feel better about yourselves? I had not known how to answer that. 3 days later, we gathered at the Coalition's premier training facility, a massive installation in orbit around a dead moon. The humans arrived in their small shuttle, 10 of them, all pilots. They were laughing and joking with each other, completely relaxed, like they were going to a party instead of a combat trial. The Coalition had assembled its best. 50 pilots. Kravik, Centauri, Velen, and a dozen other species. Veterans. Aces. The finest warriors in known space. The rules were simple. 2 teams. Coalition versus humans. Full combat in a controlled asteroid field environment, training weapons that could disable ships but not destroy them. Safety overrides engaged on all systems. First team to eliminate all enemy ships wins. 50 against 10. Drax had addressed everyone before we started. Today we settle this question once and for all, he had announced. Today we show these newcomers what real combat looks like. Today we teach them humility. The Coalition pilots had cheered. The humans had just smiled. I was watching from the command center with Rix and the other observers. We had every sensor, every camera, every monitoring system active. Nothing would be missed. Nothing would be hidden. This is going to be a massacre, Verix had said quietly. Poor humans. They flew too close to the sun. The countdown began. 10. 9. Morton's voice came over the general comm channel, clear and calm. All human pilots. This is Morton. New orders from command. 7. 6. 5. We have been requested to provide a full demonstration of human combat capabilities. 4. 3. Safety Protocol Override Authorization Foxtrot Tango Whiskey. 2. You are cleared to disengage your limiters. 1. Show them what we really are. 0. And then everything went to hell. The human ships did not just accelerate. They exploded forward, hitting speeds that should have been physically impossible. The Gi forces should have killed them instantly, turned them into red smears inside their cockpits. But they just kept accelerating, kept moving, kept pushing beyond every limit we thought existed. Webb's ship hit Mach speeds in atmosphere-equivalent drag in 3 seconds flat. He cut through the asteroid field like it was not even there, weapons blazing, and eliminated 5 Coalition ships before they even registered. He had moved. Vasquez pulled a turn that bent her ship's hull, actually bent the metal, and used the momentum to launch herself at a cluster of Kravik fighters. Her guns fired in patterns too complex to track. 6 more Coalition ships gone. What is happening? Drax had screamed. What are they doing? They turned off their safety limits. I had said, staring at the carnage unfolding on the screens. They are not playing anymore. The humans moved like they were not bound by physics. They pulled maneuvers that should have torn their ships apart, generated G-forces that should have liquefied their organs, reacted to threats faster than neural impulses should have traveled. It was not combat. It was art. It was poetry. It was absolutely terrifying. In 3 minutes, 40 Coalition ships were disabled. The remaining 10 were trying to retreat, trying to escape, trying to do anything to get away from the nightmare that had been unleashed. Morton's ship appeared in front of them. Just appeared like she had teleported. She had not fired a single shot yet. Had not needed to. Now she opened her comm channel. You wanted a demonstration, she said. You wanted to know what humans are capable of. Well, now you know. We are the species that had to invent rules to keep ourselves from destroying everything we touch. We are the species that had to build safeguards into our own biology to keep ourselves from killing each other. Every time we disagreed. We are the species that looked at the concept of mercy and had to learn it, teach it, enforce it, because it does not come naturally to us. One of the retreating Velden ships made a break for it, trying to get around her. Morton's ship moved, and it was like watching a predator strike. One shot. Perfectly placed. The Velden ship's systems went dark. You laughed at us. Morton continued, called us primitive, mocked our technology, our weapons, our ships, and we let you. Because we are trying to be better. We are trying to be the civilization we want to be, not the one we are afraid we might become. But you kept pushing, kept testing, kept demanding proof. The remaining 9 ships had stopped running. They were just floating there, surrounded, hopeless. So here is your proof, Morton said. Here is what humanity looks like when we stop being nice. When we stop holding back. When we turn off all the safety limits we built into ourselves. Are you satisfied? Did you learn something useful? Silence on the comm. Absolute silence. I thought not, Morton said. She sounded sad. Disengage weapons, trials complete. All human ships, return to base. And just like that, it was over. 50 coalition ships, disabled in under 6 minutes. 0 human casualties. 0 human ships, even scratched. The command center was chaos. People screaming, demanding explanations, calling for recounts, for reviews, for anything that would make what we just witnessed make sense. Drax was pale, his mandibles shaking. This is impossible, he kept saying. Impossible. But Rex was just staring at the tactical display, at the recording of the battle, rewinding it over and over, watching the humans move, fight, dominate. Not impossible, he said quietly. Just human. He turned to look at me. You tried to warn us. Yes, I said. We should have listened. Yes. What do we do now? He asked. That was the question. Was it not? What do you do when you realize that the newcomers you mocked, the primitives you laughed at, are actually apex predators that have been holding themselves back out of politeness? What do you do when you realize that humanity's safety limits are not there to protect humans? They are there to protect everyone else. I did not have an answer then. I still do not have an answer now, but I can tell you what happened next. I can tell you about the emergency council sessions, the panic, the desperate attempts to figure out how to handle this new reality. I can tell you about the humans, on waiting for our decision, patient as ever. And I can tell you about what happened when someone somewhere decided that humanity needed to be contained, controlled, limited. But that is a story for another time. Because right now, sitting here in this detention cell, waiting for my trial for gross negligence and catastrophic failure of strategic analysis, I need you to understand one thing. We laughed at humanity. We thought they were weak. We were so very, very wrong. And when the humans finally stopped being nice, when they showed us what they were truly capable of, we learned why Earth has a saying, a warning. Really. Something they tell each other when things get dangerous. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. We did. We made that mistake. And now we are all living with the consequences. So, where was I? Oh, rock bottom. Or so I thought. Turns out, rock bottom has a basement. And that basement has sublevels. And we were about to take the express elevator all the way down. 3 days after the trials, the emergency council session convened. Not the regular council. The high council. The big players. The species that actually ran the coalition. The ones who made decisions that affected trillions of lives across hundreds of systems. They met in secret, in a secure chamber that could survive a direct hit from a planet cracker missile. That should tell you something about how seriously they took this situation. I was called to testify. Mo Vinner, the analyst who had tried to warn everyone and been ignored. Now suddenly I was the expert everyone wanted to consult. Funny how that works, right? When things go well, nobody needs the nervous guy pointing out potential problems. When things go catastrophically wrong, suddenly that same guy is essential. The chamber was packed. Representatives from 47 species, all looking various shades of terrified, angry, or both. The humans were not invited. That should have been another warning sign, but apparently we had not learned our lesson about underestimating the obvious. Grand Admiral Kelrath, a Veln military commander who had been crushing rebellions since before my species discovered fire, opened the session. His voice was calm, measured, but I could see the tension in his auxiliary limbs. We face a unique situation, he began. A species has entered coalition space with capabilities that exceed our projections by orders of magnitude. A species that appears friendly, cooperative, and eager to join our alliance. And yet a species that has demonstrated combat abilities that frankly terrify every military analyst we have consulted. They are a threat, Drax interrupted. Still bitter about the humiliation, clearly. An existential threat to coalition security. They must be dealt with. Dealt with how, exactly? Counselor Myrix asked. She was Centauri, one of the more diplomatic species. They have not attacked us. They have not made demands. They have simply exceeded our expectations, by too much. Drax slammed his appendage on the table. No species should be that effective in combat. No species should be able to move like that, react like that, fight like that. It is unnatural. It is wrong. What Counselor Drax is trying to articulate, however poorly, Kelrath interjected, is that the humans represent a statistical anomaly. Every model we have, every predictive algorithm, every combat simulation suggests that a species with their level of technology should not possess their level of capability. Something does not add up. All eyes turned to me. Great. Just great. Analyst Vornik, Kelrath said, you have studied the humans more closely than anyone. You tried to warn us before the trials. Explain to this council what we are dealing with. I stood up, pulled up my data files, and took a deep breath. This was either going to save my career or end it permanently. The humans are not an anomaly, I said. They are a logical outcome of their evolutionary path. Let me show you something. I displayed Earth on the holographic projector. Beautiful planet, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. Looks peaceful, right? Wrong. Earth is a death world, I said. Not by our classification system, obviously. By our standards, it is a paradise. Perfect temperature range, abundant water, diverse biosphere. But that is the problem. That diversity. Let me show you what humans evolved alongside. I pulled up images. Creatures from Earth, land predators, sea predators, aerial predators, venomous creatures, parasitic creatures, microscopic killers, macroscopic horror. On most worlds, there are maybe 5 or 6 apex predators. I continued. Earth has dozens, and humans are not even the strongest, not the fastest, not the most venomous, not the biggest. They are just the smartest, and the most stubborn, and the most absolutely, relentlessly, horrifyingly persistent. I showed them a video we had acquired from human databases, a documentary about something called persistence hunting. A human barely clothed, running after a prey animal for hours, not chasing, just following, maintaining visual contact, letting the animal run itself to exhaustion while the human just kept coming, kept moving, never stopping, never giving up, until the prey collapsed from heat exhaustion and the humans simply walked up and killed it. The council chamber was silent. That is what we are dealing with, I said, a species that evolved to outlast everything else, to endure, to keep going when every other creature has given up. They do not have the strongest bite or the sharpest claws, but they have something more dangerous: endurance, determination, and the intelligence to weaponize both. This is fascinating anthropology, Drax said dismissively. But it does not explain their combat performance. Actually, it explains everything, I replied. Humans did not develop advanced technology and then learn to fight. They learned to fight, and then developed technology to fight better. Their entire civilization is built around competition and conflict. Not because they are evil, because that is what kept them alive. On Earth, if you were not good at fighting, you died. Simple as that. I pulled up more data. Human history. Wars, thousands of them, tens of thousands. Conflicts ranging from tribal skirmishes to global holocausts. Weapons development, tactics, strategy. An unbroken chain of violence stretching back to the dawn of their species. They have been fighting each other for their entire existence, I said, and every generation got better at it. Every war taught them something new. Every conflict refined their tactics. They did not have the luxury of peace for most of their history. They had to be good at combat or they ceased to exist. So they are a warrior species. Merrick said, we have dealt with warrior species before. No, I said firmly. Warrior species fight for glory, for honor, for territory. Humans fight because it is what they know. It is in their cultural DNA. They play games simulating combat. They watch entertainment about combat. They study historical battles for fun. A significant portion of their global economy is dedicated to military technology, and that is during peacetime. I let that sink in. Then I dropped the real bombshell. And here is the truly terrifying part. Everything we saw in the trials, that was them being restrained, operating under safety protocols. Because humans know what they are capable of, and it scares them. They built limiters into their own technology. Not to protect themselves, to protect everyone else. Because they learned, through painful experience, that if they do not hold back, bad things happen. Really bad things. You are saying the humans are deliberately handicapping themselves? Kelrath asked. I am saying that every human ship, every human pilot, every human soldier operates under safety restrictions that would seem insane to us. I explained. They limit their acceleration to levels that will not kill them. They restrict their reaction times to what their bodies can handle. They program mercy into their targeting systems. Not because they have to, because they choose to. Because they decided, as a species, that becoming too good at killing was a bad thing. Then we should be grateful for their restraint, Merrick said. Or we should be terrified of what happens if that restraint disappears, Drax countered. What if they decide the safety limits are no longer necessary? What if they decide that we are a threat? What if they turn all that capability against us? And there it was. The real fear. Not that humans were dangerous, but that humans might decide to stop being safe. We need leverage, Drax continued. Something to ensure they remain cooperative. Compliant. Controlled. But what are you suggesting? Kelrath asked. Though I could tell he already knew. We deny their application to the coalition, Drax said. We quarantine their system. We make it clear that until they agree to certain restrictions, certain limitations on their military capabilities, they will remain isolated. Cut off from galactic trade, technology, and diplomacy. That is essentially a declaration of hostility, Myrix protested. You would turn potential allies into definite enemies. Better an enemy we can contain than an ally we cannot control, Drax shot back. The debate raged for hours. Some counselors sided with Drax, arguing for containment and control. Others sided with Myrix, advocating for integration and cooperation. A few, like Kelrath, seemed genuinely torn between pragmatism and principle. In the end, the vote was close, dangerously close, but the containment faction won by 3 votes. The decision was made: humanity would be quarantined. Their system would be blockaded, they would be denied coalition membership until they agreed to dismantle their military capabilities and submit to coalition oversight. I voted against it. For the record. Not that it mattered. The next part is where things got really interesting. And by interesting I mean apocalyptically stupid. Captain Morton was called to receive the council's decision. She entered the chamber alone, calm as ever, and listened without interruption as Kelrath delivered the verdict. Her face remained neutral throughout. No anger, no surprise, no emotion at all. When Kelrath finished, there was a long silence. I see, Morton finally said. May I ask a question? Of course, Kelrath replied. This quarantine. How do you plan to enforce it? Kelrath gestured to the tactical display. We have assembled a blockade fleet, 200 vessels, positioned around your system's perimeter. Any attempt to leave will be met with defensive action. Morton looked at the display, studied it. Then she looked back at Kelrath. 200 ships, she said slowly. You think that will be enough? It is 3 times the size of your entire fleet, Kelrath said.
Yes.
We think it will be enough. Morton smiled. That same sad smile I had seen before, Grand Admiral. When we came here we brought 10 ships. Do you know why? Because that is all you could spare for a diplomatic mission, Kelrath guessed. No, Morton said, because we did not want to seem threatening. We thought 10 was a nice non-aggressive number. Small enough to seem harmless, but we have more ships. A lot more. How many more? Drax demanded. How many stars are in our system? Morton replied, how many planets? How many moons? How many asteroids? Because we built shipyards on all of them. We have been preparing for first contact for 2 generations. We did not know if we would meet friends or enemies, so we prepared for both. And when you prepare for enemies, you build a lot of ships. The council chamber went very quiet. You are bluffing, Drax said, trying to intimidate us into changing our decision. Am I? Morton pulled out her communicator. This is Captain Morton, to Earth Command. Authorization code, Sierra Tango Alpha Romeo. Execute protocol revelation. Acknowledged, a voice replied. Executing now. On the tactical display something changed. The area around Earth's system, which had been showing 10 small signatures for the human ships, suddenly lit up like a festival display. Hundreds of new contacts. Thousands. Too many to count. Ships of all sizes, from small fighters to massive capital vessels. They had been there the whole time, hiding in sensor shadows, using stealth technology, waiting. What you are seeing, Morton said calmly, is about 40% of our active fleet. The rest are spread throughout our system, guarding our colonies and installations. We have approximately 8,000 combat-capable vessels. We could mobilize another 12,000 within a month if needed, and that is just the ships we have already built. Our production capacity is significantly higher. Nobody spoke. Nobody could speak. 8,000 ships. From a species that had been in space for barely a generation, it was impossible. It was insane. It was human. Now, Morton continued. Let us talk about your blockade. 200 ships. Well-trained, well-equipped, veteran crews, against our 8,000. What do you think will happen if we decide to leave? Do you think your blockade will stop us? Do you think it will even slow us down? You would not dare, Drax said, but his voice was shaking. That would be an act of war. The entire coalition would respond. Yes, Morton agreed. They would, and we would fight them. And we would probably lose, eventually. Your industrial capacity is greater than ours. Your numbers are superior. Given enough time, you could grind us down through attrition. But how much would it cost you? How many ships would we take with us? How many stations would we destroy? How many colonies would we burn? She walked closer to the council table, and I saw several counselors lean back involuntarily. We are persistence predators, remember? Morton said. We do not give up. We do not surrender. If you make us choose between submission and extinction, we will choose extinction. But we will make you pay for every single human life you take. We will make it so expensive, so costly, so pyrrhically devastating that you will regret ever meeting us. This is madness, Kelrath said quietly. Why would you fight a war you know you cannot win? Because that is what humans do, Morton replied simply. We have a saying, from an old military doctrine. It goes, the enemy cannot push a button if you disable his hand. So we studied that principle, we evolved it, we perfected it. If we cannot win a war through strength, we win through spite. We make victory worse than defeat. We make every meter of ground so soaked with blood that our enemies wonder if it was worth taking. She turned to address the entire council. You wanted to know what humans are capable of. You wanted proof. Well, here it is. We are capable of anything. Anything at all. The only thing limiting us is our own moral choices, our own decisions about what kind of species we want to be. We built safety limits not because we had to, because we wanted to. Because we decided that being good at killing was less important than being good at living. But you just threatened to kill us all, Drax pointed out. No, Morton corrected. I threatened to make you regret starting a fight. There is a difference. We do not want war. We came here seeking peace, cooperation, friendship. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We want to contribute, to learn, to grow, but we will not be caged. We will not be controlled. And we will not dismantle our defenses just because you are afraid of us. She looked directly at Kelrath. So here is our counter-proposal. Accept us as equals, with full sovereignty and self-determination, or reject us and let us go home. But do not try to quarantine us. Do not try to contain us. Do not try to dictate terms to us, because if you do, we will interpret that as an act of aggression, and we will respond accordingly. You cannot dictate terms to this council. Drax shouted. We are not dictating terms, Morton said. We are stating facts, cause and effect, action and consequence. You are free to choose whichever option you prefer, but choose carefully, because you only get one chance. We are offering friendship, but if you insist on making us enemies, we will be the best enemies you have ever had. She turned and walked toward the exit. At the doorway she paused. You have 24 hours to decide, she said. After that we are leaving, either as friends or not. Your choice. And then she was gone. The council chamber exploded into shouting, accusations, demands, and panic. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a solution. Nobody had a clue. Kelrath finally restored order by literally roaring, a deep subsonic vibration that rattled the walls and shut everyone up immediately. Enough, he shouted. We need to think rationally, strategically. Analyst Vornik, You have been right about the humans from the beginning. What do you recommend? All eyes turned to me again. Wonderful. Just wonderful. Accept their terms, I said immediately. Full membership, equal status. No restrictions. That is unacceptable. Drax protested. We would be showing weakness. No, I said. We would be showing intelligence. The humans are not bluffing. They will fight if we push them. And even if we win, the cost will be catastrophic. But more importantly, why are we fighting them at all? What have they actually done wrong? They are too dangerous, Drax insisted. They are too capable, I corrected. There is a difference. They have not attacked us. They have not threatened us unprovoked. They have not demanded anything unreasonable. They simply want to be left alone to govern themselves. That is not dangerous. That is normal. But their military capacity, someone started, is their business, I interrupted. We do not dictate fleet sizes to each other. The Kravik have massive armadas. The Centauri have planet-killer weapons. The Velen have strategic reserves that could conquer half the galaxy if they wanted. We do not quarantine them. Why? Because we trust them, because they are part of the coalition, because we treat them as equals. The humans are newcomers, Drax argued. So were we once. I shot back. Every species in this room was a newcomer at some point, and every single one of us was evaluated, tested, and ultimately accepted based on our intentions, not our capabilities. The humans have shown nothing but good intentions. Yes, they are capable of violence. So are we. So is everyone. The question is not whether they can fight, the question is whether they will choose peace when given the option. And you think they will? Kalrath asked. I think they already have, I said. They could have blown past your blockade before you even assembled it. They could have taken this station by force and demanded recognition. They could have done 100 different aggressive things. Instead, they asked nicely. They demonstrated their abilities only when challenged. They warned us before removing their safety limits. They have been nothing but cooperative, despite being mocked, tested, and now threatened with quarantine. That is not the behavior of a hostile species. That is the behavior of someone trying really, really hard to be diplomatic despite having every reason not to be. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Finally, Myrick spoke up. He is right. We have been acting out of fear, not logic. The humans have given us no reason to treat them as enemies. We are creating a problem that does not exist. I agree, another counselor said. Then another, then several more. The tide was turning. Slowly, grudgingly, but turning. Kalrath looked at Drax. Do you have anything else to add, counselor? Drax glared at me, then at Kalrath, then at the rest of the council. Finally, he slumped in his seat. No, he muttered. I have nothing to add. Then I call for a new vote, Kalrath announced. All in favor of accepting humanity's application for full coalition membership, with no restrictions or conditions beyond our standard requirements. The vote was not even close this time. 39 for, 8 against. Everyone else abstaining. Motion passes, Kalrath said. Humanity is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Coalition. Analyst Vornik, you will accompany me to deliver the news to Captain Morton. Immediately, we found her in the human quarters, calmly drinking something called coffee and reading a book. An actual physical book, made from paper, like some kind of primitive artifact. She looked up when we entered, showed no surprise at seeing the Grand Admiral himself. Captain Morton, Kalrath said formally, the Council has reconsidered its decision. We would like to offer humanity full membership in the coalition, with all rights, privileges, and responsibilities that entails. No restrictions, no conditions, equal partners. Morton set down her book and her coffee. What changed your minds? Wisdom, Kalrath said simply. Better late than never, I hope. Morton smiled. A real smile this time. Not sad. Genuinely pleased. We accept, she said. Thank you, Grand Admiral. You will not regret this. I certainly hope not, Kalrath replied. Though I confess, I am curious about one thing. Those 8,000 ships, did you really build all of them? Morton's smile widened slightly. No, she admitted. We have about 3,000 actual combat vessels. The rest were decoys. Drones projecting false signatures, old satellites with transponders attached. Frankly, anything we could make look like a ship on sensors. We figured you would not scan them too closely before making your decision. Kalrath stared at her. You were bluffing? Technically, yes, Morton said. But the 3,000 real ships are still more than enough to make a quarantine really expensive to enforce, so it was not entirely a bluff. More like Keterk accounting. Kelrith made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a groan. Hard to tell with Velen physiology. You are going to fit right in with this coalition, he said. Welcome aboard, Captain. Try not to scare too many more people. No promises, Morton replied, but we will do our best. And that was it. Crisis averted. Disaster avoided. Humanity joined the coalition and immediately became one of its most valuable members. Their ships helped defend border systems, their tactical expertise revolutionized our military doctrine, their technology, once they started sharing it, advanced our entire civilization by decades. But more importantly, they became friends. Real friends. The kind who showed up when you needed help, who shared their resources during disasters, who treated everyone with genuine respect and kindness. The kind of friends who could absolutely destroy you if they wanted to but chose not to because they actually liked you. As for me, well, my trial for gross negligence was cancelled. Turns out being the one person who correctly assessed the situation counts for something. I got promoted. Now I run the entire strategic analysis department. My job is to make sure we never again underestimate a newcomer species based on appearance or preconceptions. It is a good job. Keeps me busy. But mostly it reminds me every single day of the lesson we learned. Never, ever mistake kindness for weakness. Never laugh at someone just because they are different. And never, ever challenge humans to show you what they are really capable of, because they will show you, and you will regret asking. But here is the funny part. The really hilarious cosmic joke part. After everything that happened, after all the fear and panic and near disasters, the humans became the coalition's peacekeepers. They volunteer for the most dangerous missions. They mediate conflicts between hostile species. They put themselves between warring factions and just dare anyone to escalate. And you know what? It works. Because everyone knows what humans can do. Everyone knows what happens when you make them take off their safety limits. So when humans show up and say, please calm down and stop fighting, people listen. Not because humans are the strongest, though they might be. Not because humans are the smartest, though they are pretty clever, but because humans are the only species that actively chooses to be gentle despite being capable of extreme violence. And that choice, that conscious decision to be better than their nature demands, commands a respect that raw power never could. I see Captain Morton sometimes. She is Ambassador Morton now. Runs the entire human diplomatic corps. We have lunch occasionally, talk about old times, laugh about how badly we messed up our first encounter. Last time I saw her, I asked the question that had been bothering me since the beginning. Why did you come to us? I asked. You had to know how we would react. You had to know we would underestimate you. Why not just stay home, stay safe, stay isolated? She had thought about it for a moment, then smiled. Because being alone is boring, she said, and scary, and limiting. We could have stayed on Earth forever. Sure. Built our civilization, explored our system, lived our lives. But we would have always wondered what else was out there. Who else? What we were missing. And humans hate missing out on things, even when those things include being mocked and threatened. I asked. Especially then, she replied. Because those things mean we matter, mean we are part of something bigger, mean we get to meet interesting people, learn amazing things, and occasionally show off a little when we get challenged to simulations. She had laughed at that. A real, genuine, joyful laugh. Besides, she added, we knew it would work out eventually, because despite everything, despite all our flaws and violence and terrible history, humans are fundamentally optimistic. We believe things can get better. We believe people can change. We believe that reaching out is worth the risk, and we were right. You did change. You did give us a chance. And now here we are. Friends. Friends. I agreed, though you still terrify me sometimes. Good, she said, grinning. Keeps you honest. And that, more than anything, sums up humanity. They will be your best friend or your worst enemy, and either way they will do it with such commitment and intensity that you will never forget them. We laughed at humanity, thought they were weak, thought they were primitive, thought they were harmless. We were wrong about everything. But at least we figured it out before it was too late. At least we chose friendship over fear. At least we gave them a chance. And you know what? They gave us a chance too. Could have held a grudge. Could have made us pay for our arrogance. could have done a lot of things. Instead, they forgave us, helped us, became our friends, because that is what humans do. They surprise you, they terrify you, they challenge everything you thought you knew, and then they buy you coffee and ask how your day was. That is humanity, equal parts terrifying and endearing, capable of unimaginable violence and unbelievable kindness, warriors and poets, destroyers and builders. The species that looked at the concept of safety limits and decided those were really more like suggestions. So if you ever meet a human, remember this story. Remember what happened when we laughed at them. Remember what happened when we challenged them. Remember what happened when we tried to contain them, and then treat them with the respect they deserve. Not because they will hurt you if you do not, but because they will surprise you if you do. They are humanity. They are extraordinary. They are our friends. And yes, they still scare me sometimes.